Hey guys, welcome back to LAB UAE. Today I wanted to talk about something which I've been wanting to talk about in more detail for a really long time, because every time I do a Q&A or a live session or pretty much any kind of event, questions come up about imposter syndrome. And I'm really glad that they come up, because for so long, any kind of mental health issue has been a taboo subject in the legal profession. And it's only really been in the last year or two, really, that people have felt able to talk about having any kind of anxiety or depression or mental health issue. And I'm so pleased to see so many questions come up about this, because I am happy to talk openly about my experience with it. And I think more people should, because the more people who talk about their experiences and how they've dealt with it, the more likely other people are to deal with it better in the future. Most of you watching this video probably already know what imposter syndrome is, or you wouldn't be watching it. But if you don't know what it is and you're not sure if you've experienced it, then effectively what imposter syndrome is feeling like a fraud, is feeling like you don't belong in your own life, you don't deserve the success that you've had, and basically feeling like an imposter in your own life, hence the term. And it can manifest itself in a lot of different ways for reasons which I think will become clear later on in this video. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience of it and how I learned to manage it, and some tactics which may hopefully work for you. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, so I can't guarantee that these things that work for me will work for you, but it's just some ideas to try, and hopefully some of you will take some benefit from them. I first experienced what I now know to be imposter syndrome when I first started school, actually, because those of you who know my story know that I was home educated until much later on in my life, and I started school at a time when everybody else had been at school for a very long time and I hadn't. And I felt very much like I wasn't supposed to be there and that I was a complete imposter. Albeit that that's when I first experienced it. I'm going to talk about my more recent experience of it, which is when I started my training contract, because the feelings were actually almost identical. And I remember it more vividly when I started my training contract than from when I first started school. So by way of example, the first day of my training contract, I remember so clearly. I remember I was so busy and so anxious in the morning when I first started. I didn't actually get a chance to go to the toilet until lunchtime. And I went into the toilet, and the first thing I noticed when I looked in the mirror was that I had a massive hole in the side of my cardigan, just here. And it was a cream cardigan, it was a fitted cardigan that I was wearing over a black dress. So you could see the black dress gaping through the hole in my cardigan. There was no way that other people hadn't noticed this. And I remember feeling immediately like I was about to cry. I didn't actually cry, but I was very close to it, because I felt all these feelings of my insecurity at school coming back to me, where I just felt like I didn't fit in. I felt like everyone around me knows what they're doing, they're so polished, they've clearly worked in an office for ages, and I am just not cut out for this. I've always felt like an inherently scruffy person. I've always had this like frizzy, naturally ginger hair and freckles and not great skin, and my nails just never grow, and when I try and put acrylics on them, they just break, and I just feel like I am never as polished as everyone else. And this is one of my biggest insecurities in life, is just feeling like a scruff bag all the time. And when you go into an office environment, everyone looks very slick. Everyone looks so clean and tidy and corporate, and I just didn't feel like I did. And coming into work on my first day with this gaping hole in my cardigan was just everything. That was just everything that was me. Scruffy, not well put together, and just generally completely out of place in a corporate environment. On top of that, I also felt pretty inferior because of my academics. You know my story as well. You know that I didn't do great at my A-levels. In fact, it's a massive understatement. I did the worst that you can possibly do in A-levels and still pass. And academics was such a core part of the training contract application process that I felt like this must be fundamental. And albeit that I did not train in a firm which had or put particular emphasis on academics, I still felt like I probably had the worst academics in the whole firm, and that this was a fundamental part of being a good lawyer, and therefore how could I possibly be a good lawyer without this fundamental part? So I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of insecurity, it's fair to say, on my first day, and I felt like a fraud. I felt like something had gone wrong and my name had been thrown out by accident and somebody else was meant to be in that space and it wasn't me. So how did I manage those feelings? First of all, I could tell straight away that these were my own insecurities coming back to haunt me, because it reminded me so much of my first day at school. So I was able to see straight away that this was my mind playing tricks on me, and this wasn't actually a reflection of the true situation, which is exactly what imposter syndrome is. It is a psychological phenomenon. It's not a reflection on what's actually happening around you. It's your own mind throwing out insecurities, anxieties, and presenting them in a way that makes you feel like an imposter. I'm going to throw out a Harry Potter reference right now just because the analogy works so well. I want you to think of imposter syndrome as like a boggart. And if you don't know what a boggart is, I'm going to read you the definition on harrypotterfandom.com. A boggart is an amortal, shape-shifting non-being that takes the form of its observer's worst fear. This is exactly what imposter syndrome is. It's a manifestation of your own worst fears and insecurities. But why this analogy works so well is the way that you get rid of the boggart. And the way you get rid of the boggart is by not giving it any airtime. You don't give it any recognition. You see what it is, you take it, and you know that this is your mind playing tricks on you and it's not real, and you banish it, because the boggart can only exist in as much as you give it the airtime to exist, and as much as your mind gives it time and thinks about it. The more you think about it, the bigger it gets, the more and more it takes over your life and inhibits your progress. Mindset is so important in terms of determining your physical capability. So the more your mind is telling you you can't do it, the more you actually won't be able to do it, and that will only perpetuate the problem of you believing that you can't do it. But it only exists if you give it that airtime and you think about it. If you don't give it that airtime, if you take it and you banish it, eventually it will shrivel up and die because it has no air. It has nothing to feed on. So try your hardest not to give it that airtime. And I know that sounds like a super easy fix, and it's not that easy. It takes time to be able to do that. It's not something you can just go, oh, here we go, I recognise what that is, bye, and it's gone. It's not that simple. But the more you can start to think of it in that way, the easier it becomes to neutralise it. If that's not working for you and you keep looking around, seeing other people who you think are doing much better than you and deserve to be there a lot more than you do, then another couple of things which are good to bear in mind is the fact that nobody is ever doing as well as they look like they're doing. Everybody looks super cool and calm and collected on the outside, but everybody is battling internal struggles with anxiety, with stress at home, with insecurities, all sorts of things. So never judge another person based on how they look like they're doing. It's a waste of time. You have no idea how they're really doing, so focus on something else. Secondly, even if they are doing better than you, that's okay. It's probably because they've had a lot more experience than you, or they're just more talented at that particular thing than you are. This is a natural part of being a human being. Everybody has a unique skill set, and you can't be expected to perform as well as somebody who's been doing something for a very long time. And equally, even if you've been doing it the same amount of time, they just may be more skilled in that particular thing than you are, and you will be more skilled in something else. This, again, is a natural part of being a human. You don't have to be as good as everyone else at everything, otherwise we'd all be the same. We're all different, so don't compare yourself to other people. You only need to focus on what you're doing. That's the only important thing in this equation. If you ever think that you have been put there by mistake and that somebody else was meant to be there in your place, I can guarantee you that that is not the case. I can guarantee you that whatever position you're in, that company would much sooner correct a mistake if they'd hired the wrong person than invest tens of hundreds of thousands of pounds, in the case of a trainee, in the wrong person. I guarantee you are not there by mistake. Whatever role you're in, you've been through a recruitment process. If it's the trainee recruitment process, it's hella rigorous. You've been through about 6 or 7 stages. You know you're meant to be there. Even if you're not in a trainee role, even if you're a paralegal or an admin, you went through a process and you met the criteria. You have what it takes. Always remember that. I'm going to leave you with a final take-home message, which I actually heard on Steven-Bartlett's podcast a a couple of weeks ago, but it really applies in this situation. How you treat yourself and think about yourself sets the tone for how other people treat you and think about you. If you think you're not capable of doing this or you're not meant to be there, then that's how everyone else will treat you. So if you want people to treat you with respect and treat you like you deserve to be there, that's how you need to feel in your own mind. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please hit like, please leave a comment. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and please share with anyone else who you think might find this helpful. Thanks for watching, guys. See you again next week.